Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Friday, May 26th. Hopefully you're getting ready for your Memorial Day weekend coming up here in a few hours. For most of us, it's a 3-day weekend, of course, where we get to relax a little bit. For many of us, it's really the start of summer. Here in Texas, or Dallas, Texas, it's in the 90s today, so I think summer's here. And that's always a good thing because I think summer is good for us. I like summer, except when it gets to be 110, then you get tired of summer and you want to give it up. But right now, I enjoy the summer for one primary reason, and that is I don't have allergies in the summer. And that's the best part of summer. Today we're going to take a look at this special election in Montana on Thursday night. We'll talk a little bit about President Trump and NATO. We'll talk about John Wayne. We'll talk about Memorial Day. And we'll begin with John Wayne, who was born on this day in 1907. John Wayne is in many ways the cowboy of cowboys, but I put a few notes today on my blog where I was actually, discussing some movies that he made where he was not a cowboy. There's a great movie that he made a couple of movies where he's been a pilot, a couple of other movies where he has not been your traditional cowboy role, and I thought he was very believable in those roles as well. I suppose a lot of people enjoy the different cowboy movies. As far as the cowboy movies are concerned, my favorite one continues to be The Shootist, which happened to be his last movie before he passed away. It was, ironically, a movie about an aging cowboy who was dying of cancer, which, of course, 3 years later, he died of cancer in 1979. But I think John Wayne is one of those figures that goes beyond the movies. I think he is truly an American natural, an American original, and all I can tell you is that every year when we remember his date of birth or the anniversary of his death, there's so much to talk about because there are so many movies. He left us so many movies to go back and enjoy. So we remember John Wayne today on what would have been the 110th anniversary of his birth back in what is, I should say, forgive me, the 110th anniversary of the day he was born in 1907. As I said, he died in 1979, so he was 72 when he died, fairly young, I would say, but nevertheless, he just couldn't battle cancer. It really hit him very hard, and he passed away. We also remember today, by the way, as long as we're talking about old cowboys, we remember James Arness, who was Matt Dillon, Marshal Matt Dillon, on the show The Gunsmoke, and that particular cowboy was very big too. Now, he was more of a television cowboy, whereas John Wayne was a movie cowboy, but nevertheless, he was one of the big ones of television, and that was a great show, Gunsmoke, one of my old-time favorite shows as well. So a couple of big Western figures that we remember on this day, May 26th. Let's talk a little bit about the election in Montana. I have a post coming out Saturday morning about that. The Democrats, we continue to play this game where the Democrats build up these special elections, and that's what they are. They're special elections because the member of Congress was nominated or accepted to be in Mr. Trump's cabinet or whatever, and so there's an opening. There was one in Kansas a few weeks ago where the Republicans won. Now there was one in Montana where the Republicans won again last night. Now this one, of course, you had a situation where the GOP candidate hit a reporter, which I don't defend under any circumstances. I know some people were saying, well, if he hit a reporter, maybe he would have gotten more votes. Look, we don't live in a country like that, okay? So I think we got to cut that out. The bottom line is he should have never hit the reporter. I know some of these lefty reporters can really bother you after a while, and sometimes reporters can be really obscene in how they just stick a microphone in your face, but you don't push a guy back. You just don't. You simply say, look, I'll get to you in a minute, but you don't react in a violent way. So that was obviously a very bad situation for the GOP candidate. But at the end of the night, at the end of the day, something like 70% of the votes had been cast, so most of the people had already voted, and there just aren't enough Republicans in Montana to make that much of a difference. Now, in all fairness, the Montana has a Democrat U.S. Senator Tester, and I think they have a Democrat governor, so it's not like no Democrat can win. If you put up a good candidate, he or she could win. The problem with the Democrats this time around is they went out and found a gentleman who was new to politics. I don't think he had much of a message except that Trump wanted to take away your health insurance and tax the rich and that kind of message. I just don't think that is a message that works in a state like Montana. It may work in a particular district, but not in a state like Montana. Remember, the congressional district in Montana is the whole state because they only have one congressional district. They have 2 senators in one congressional district. So when you run in Montana, you're running in the whole state. So it's almost like running for governor or running for the Senate. You don't have districts where, this candidate or that candidate would be favored. At the end of the day, the Republican won by about 8 to 9 points. Many Democrats are saying it's a moral victory because it wasn't as much of a difference as, let's say, there was with President Trump. I don't think so. I think an 8 to 10 point victory is a good victory. And frankly, it probably would have been more, but the turnout was very low. There wasn't that much excitement. A lot of people thought that the GOP guy was going to win, and that probably depressed a little bit of the turnout. But the bottom line is the Democrats are reacting to all of this by saying this is a moral victory. No, it's not a moral victory. That's just a bunch of nonsense, this stuff about moral victories. There is no such thing as a moral victory. You may feel like you had a moral victory, but at the end of the day, you lost. And there's very little chance that you're going to defeat this particular representative in 2018. So I just don't think the Democrats ever had a chance to win. But if they do want to win in a place like Montana, they're going to have a better message than simply saying Trump is evil and he wants to take your health insurance away. They're going to need something a little bit better than that, or they're going to continue to lose a lot of these districts that are more competitive to them. You can do this. You can do this race card or class warfare act in certain districts, but when you get into more competitive districts where there is a larger percentage of the white population, that just doesn't fly. That just doesn't fly. And Montana is also an interesting case for Obamacare because in many of the large rural states like Montana, Obamacare is falling apart even faster than it is in some of the states with big cities. So I just don't think the Democrats had a good candidate. I just don't think they had a good message. But overall, they're going to have to stand for something rather than just say, we hate Trump. They're going to have to stand for something. They're going to have an economic plan. They're going to have to stand for something because as long as they keep saying, we hate Trump, I just don't think they're going to win a lot of elections. I just don't see it that way. They will in some places, but not in many other places. We're going to take a little break. We're going to hear from my friend Carlos, and we'll be right back. Go see my friend Carlos. He always puts on quite a show in many of these Saturday nights. It's just absolutely incredible. What a great show, and the food is also good at NOLA. So I think you get good music and you get some good food as well. Well, let's talk a little bit about a couple of quick stories. President Trump has been talking to the other leaders of NATO. I actually think he's doing a good job, and it's about time that somebody publicly, I'm not going to say scolded, but reminded these countries that they're not doing their fair share in this NATO arrangement. The fact is that many of these countries are not investing in defense the 2% that they're supposed to invest. The way it works is it's not that they pay the United States directly. The way it works is they have to spend a certain percentage of their GDP in defense, on defense, and they're not doing it. Most of the countries are not doing it at all, and the United States is doing over 3%. So we're exceeding our portion. Many of these other countries are not, and I'm glad that President Trump reminded them, hey, this is not a one-way street. If you want to be a part of an organization intended to protect you, you got to do your fair share, and your fair share is 2%. Now, the issue is whether these countries have the political courage to spend 2% of their budgets on defense. I don't know, because they've gotten used to this for such a long time that I'm not sure that they have the politicians in the country to do it. But one way or the other, they're going to have to do it because the American public, and rightfully so, is saying, look, we've been defending you. Our boys, our hardware, our presence has been protecting you. The least we expect from you is to play or do whatever you're supposed to do under NATO. So I'm very happy that President Trump laid down this marker and said, this is not going to work. These countries have got to do a better job. Down in Brazil, they're having a very serious corruption problem. The latest president, who just the last time around, he replaced the last president who was impeached. Well, he seems to be having quite a few problems of his own. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up having to resign or leave office as well. I wrote a post about this morning over at the American Thinker, and it's just a problem that the country has. The political class has absolutely no credibility, and you put one in, and then in a short period of time, he's engaging in corruption, or he's a victim of corruption, and he's involved with corruption. The country is really in bad shape politically. The political class has gotten so used to this crony capitalism, and it worked for a while, but it doesn't work anymore, largely because the economy is in very bad shape, so people are hurting a great deal. Bottom line, Brazil is in serious trouble. I think they're going to go probably through more political turmoil. What will it all mean? I'm not exactly sure, but it cannot be any good when you keep having one president after president involved in corruption scandals. Well, Memorial Day is this weekend. I think this is one of those holidays. Now, like many of you, I'm going to go out of town for a day or so, and I'm going to enjoy some time with the family, so hopefully you will do the same. But, of course, during the course of the holiday, particularly on Monday, I hope you take the time to remember what this is all about. Memorial Day is when we remember the men and some women over the years who've given their lives for the country, from the Revolutionary War to the wars of terrorism. At the moment, you've had many, many thousands of people who've given their lives in combat and military operations, and those are the ones that we remember today. These are the young men and women that we remember today who've given their lives for the country. And I'm sure all of us know someone, all of us are familiar with a family that maybe has lost a son or has a family member who's been killed, whether it's Iraq or Afghanistan or more recently in Vietnam, of course. You may have a uncle or father or whatever who served in Vietnam. I'm sure he can tell you some things about some of the brothers that he lost over there. But bottom line is Memorial Day is to remember the men who served in war, the ones who gave their lives. And I think of all the holidays, this is, I think, the most important one, because this is when this is what makes the country great, that we are willing to take some time and honor the men and women who served and gave their lives. Not just who served, that's what Veterans Day is for, but in this case, the ones who actually gave their lives for the country. And we have to take a minute and remember that. So during the course of the weekend, when you're having your hot dogs or your hamburgers or whatever it may be, and you're having a good time at the pool or wherever you may be, just take a few minutes and remember what this holiday is all about. Memorial Day is about remembering the men who died for this country, the heroes, as I like to call them, who gave their lives for this country. Well, have a great Memorial Day, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas. We'll be back on Monday with our friend Bill Katz, the editor of Urgent Agenda. We'll talk to you later. Happy Memorial Day.